Hey, Millenex Ridge Eagles. I'm back with chapters, I believe, 7 and 8 today. I can't believe it. And yesterday we ended where, you know, Rufus had two friends, one of which he was worried was outcooling him and outgrowing him. And, sometimes that happens with friendships and it feels so scary. Change is scary. And when other people are changing and you're not, that can feel really scary. So I'm really wondering how Rufus is going to address that in the book. And then we also have Dimitri, who seems to be really jealous of Rufus and his relationship with his friend. So curious to see what's going to happen. Last we found, it sounded like he was going home and kind of dreading seeing this guinea pig. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. Chapter 7. I heard the howling a block away. Okay, maybe not howling. It was too screechy for howling. But I read once that grasshopper mice howl, and if a little mouse like that can do it, why not a guinea pig? I took my time walking that last block because, one, I wanted Dad to be punished for as long as possible for refusing to get me a dog. And two, I knew he was going to try to make it seem like it was my fault that he was stuck with a guinea pig all day, when it absolutely was not. A part of me hoped he didn't get any work done at all because of Fido's screeching, and that his nerves were shot, and that consequently, he would tell me the second I stepped through the door that he would be immediately returning the rodent to its place of purchase for a full refund. That part of me, by the way, was the largest part. All that was left of this little tiny part that was afraid of him, and an even tinier part that felt sort of bad for him. I ignored these parts, though, because he so deserved every bad thing that was happening to him for not being a normal dad who liked dogs. So I didn't want to get home because I wanted Dad to suffer. But I did want to get home so I could see him all wigged out and frazzled. Though I didn't want him getting all wigged out and frazzled on me. My big fantasy was that I'd walk through the door and he'd be running around the house pulling out what was left of his hair, yelling, "You can have a dog! You can have a dog! Just get rid of the guinea pig!" Our house is on a cul-de-sac with three other houses that look pretty much like it. 2 stories, big windows in front, gray shutters that don't shut, green aluminum siding, 2-car garage, steep driveway, baby trees in the yard, and a store-bought sign that read, "Solicitors will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law." This was Dad's doing. On the front door he hung a sign he made with his computer. There is no doorbell. Do not knock. To speak to residents, enter the security code, then press pound. If you do not know the security code, please turn around and vacate the property. Under the sign was a number keypad. On the porch was a rubber welcome mat that read, "We're glad you're here." This was Mom's attempt to warm up the fortress. She bought it at work. I pressed the 4 button 4 times. The golf e-sign Dad works for is called 4. Then the pound sign. I heard the clearance beep and pushed the door open. A scowling man in a gray suit and fuzzy blue slippers was standing behind it. I jumped. "Hi, Dad," I said as I stepped in and closed the door behind me. The foyer we stood in was plunged into near darkness. The only light came from Dad's angry eyes. "Hello, son," he said in a slow, sinister voice. It gave me the chills. "How was school? Fine?" I shrugged. "I guess." "So glad to hear that." My eyes began to adjust to the dark. I could see Dad smiling in this creepy way. He has pointed canines, too. He looked pretty vampire-like. Fido was still screeching, though it sounded quieter inside the house for some reason. "Fido missed you today, I think," Dad said. "She's been calling for you." "She's been calling for you all day. Ever since you left this morning, in fact, she's been calling for you non-stop. All day. Ever since this morning when you left, Rufus." Then he leapt out, a little maniacal. "I'll go up and see what I can do," I said and tried to squeeze by him. He took a step sideways, blocking me. Not up, son, he whispered. Out. Out? He turned and walked toward the kitchen in an undead zombie-like way. At the sink, he pointed out the window. His eyes were sort of twitching and winking. I got up on my tiptoes and looked out. He was pointing at my treehouse. I'd kind of forgotten it was there. It wasn't a homemade treehouse. It was a store-bought treehouse, made of fat, giant, interlocking, colorful plastic pieces, like the kind little kids' backyards playsets were made of. Dad bought it to avoid all the noise and mess of hammering and sawing. Is that where Fido is? I asked. He nodded. Because she was too loud? He nodded again. That was why I heard her so far away, I thought. I'll go out and try to quiet her down. Yes, Dad said. Do. I backed away from him. He didn't move a muscle except the ones in his eyes. The eyes, followed me as I backed away. They didn't blink. I wondered if it was possible that Fido the guinea pig had driven my dad out of his mind in one single day. To be fair, since he'd started working at home, it wasn't like she'd had all that far to drive him. Are we going to have to take her back to the pet store? I asked, hoping I wasn't overplaying my hand. I wanted him to think that it was his decision, his idea. We will discuss that with your mother when she returns from work, he said, still not blinking. Copy that, I said. Oops, he squinted at me. I mean, that sounds good, Dad, I said with a put-on smile. Discussing it with Mom after work sounds excellent. Can't wait. Then I ran out of the house. Chapter 8. Fido was in my treehouse. She was in her cage. It was covered with a quilt, probably to muffle her screeches. Dad had stacked books on the quilt so that Fido couldn't drag the quilt off. I imagined Dad carrying first Fido and the cage up the tree, then the quilt, then the books, the whole time furious that he wasn't at his desk editing. I wondered who he was the maddest at, Fido, Mom, or me. He should have been maddest at himself, of course, but I've already gone into that. When I pulled the quilt off, Fido squealed like a pig. I guess that's why they call them that. Then she gripped the bars and whined and panted and wagged her butt. Quiet, I said, to show her who was the boss, and she pulled her act together. I don't mind saying it. I kind of enjoyed how obedient she was. It was fun telling someone else what to do for a change. I wondered if I should open the cage door. The treehouse had no real doors or windows. If she wanted to escape and could climb, I don't know anything about the species then, she might shimmy down the tree and be gone. If she couldn't climb, she might fall out of the tree and be badly injured or even killed. I opened the cage door. She ran out, but did not try to escape. Instead, she darted up my pant leg to my t-shirt, up my t-shirt to my face, and licked my chin. She could climb all right. I pinched the back of her furry little neck and lifted her up. She hung there, limp and whimpering, her tiny, pink, creepy clawed feet twitching. Her eyes were big and set on either side of her head, which made her snout look huge. The snout had a vertical white stripe running down it. This beast didn't look anything like a dog. She didn't look like a rat either, though, or a pig for that matter. She looked like some sort of alien life form. Where was Guinea, anyway? I felt bad after a couple of seconds of holding her by her scruff, so I set her down in my lap. She started straight for my chin again. Down, I said. She froze, then returned to my lap. Sit, I added. She sat. I wondered if maybe they sold trained guinea pigs at the pet store of Mom's. If that was true, Dad could silence Fido anytime he wanted to, which meant Fido wouldn't drive him crazy anymore, and we wouldn't have to take her back. All I had to do was tell Dad that when Fido was noisy, he should say quiet. So I didn't tell him that. Who knows? Maybe Fido wouldn't have listened to him anyway. Maybe she only listened to me. I carried the cage down out of the treehouse and set it on the grass. Fido climbed down out of the tree on her own. She could have bolted easy, but she ran in circles around me, her tongue flapping out of her mouth, her butt wagging. I think she wanted to play. I picked up a twig and tossed it. "Fetch!" I said. She shot after it, her plump body galloping through the grass. She returned with the twig held tightly in her long rodent front teeth. Her nose twitched like crazy. I took the twig. "Good pig," I said very quietly, and gave her a tiny scratch on her head. She rolled over and exposed her belly. The meeting was held in the conference room. Yes, we have a conference room at home. Dad feels it is necessary. Mom calls it the family gathering room, but she never fools anyone. It's a small room, just big enough for a small wooden table and 3 chairs. The walls, like all the walls in our house, are wallpapered. After work, Mom doesn't like to think about or seeing paint. The wallpaper in the conference family gathering room had a harvest theme: haystacks, pumpkins, and barns. The wallpaper in my room, by the way, has a race car motif. Vroom, vroom. Pretty funny considering we have 2 hybrids. "The issue on the floor is the guinea pig," Dad said. "I make a motion we return it to the pet store. Do I hear a second?" "Wait a second, Art," Mom said. "I have a second," Dad said. I said, "Wait a second. Can't we discuss this first?" Dad sighed. Believe it or not, I was relieved at Mom's interruption. I mean, before I came through the door from school, I would have seconded Dad's motion in a nanosecond, but suddenly I wasn't so sure. Why? I don't know, really. I still wanted a dog, and Fido definitely was not a dog, but playing fetch with Fido had been sort of interesting, if not exactly fun. Was there some way to keep Fido and get a dog? Probably not, but I wasn't as eager to get rid of her as I had been just a couple of hours ago. "Fine," Dad said. "The floor is open for discussion. Discuss, Raquel. Discuss." "I don't think we've given Emmeline much of a chance to adapt to her new home." "Fido," I said. "Right, Fido. Sorry. I don't think we should make any decisions until she's had a chance to get to know us and we've had a chance to get to know her." Very dramatically, Dad pulled out a shoe out of hiding and slammed it onto the table. Wham! Mom and I jumped. The shoe was one of Dad's shiny black leather jobs with laces and fringe. The laces and fringe were noticeably gnawed, and there were teeth marks on the tongue. Dad glared at Mom, then at me. "What?" I said. "Why are you looking at me?" "End of discussion," Dad announced through gritted teeth. "Return the rodent, Raquel." Suddenly I wondered, was I losing my mind too? No way was I going to change sides. Not after all I'd been through in my fight for dog ownership. A little freaky fun with a furball was not enough for me to put an end to my dreams. I wanted a dog, not a trained rat. "I second your motion, Dad," I said. "Good," Dad said. "All in favor?" "Aye." "Aye," I said. "The ayes have it," he said. "Then I guess I'll take her back," Mom said, with sobs in her throat and tears in her eyes. I didn't like watching her cry, so I stared at the haystacks and barns.